I just want you to know that I'm with New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. We have a very large budget, a little less than last year, but significantly more than years past. So we've grown very fast. We're a major energy efficiency program provider. I'm in the R&D group, so I manage the lighting R&D program and the behavior research program now. And we also have ambitious environmental targets. We became interested in using behavior research to try to increase the efficacy of the clean energy programs at NYSERDA. Those are energy efficiency, conservation, and renewable energy, because we knew that there's quite a large delta between what the technical potential and even economic potential for clean energy and what the market potential is, so what's actually happening. So it's critical to understand what the cognitive biases are that influence all of our individual and also business decision-making relating to energy efficiency or clean energy. I'm just going to talk about a few, but if you Google cognitive biases, you'll come to this Wikipedia site with more than 100 cognitive biases. And I'm reading Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, and it's really an amazing book. And it will give you a lot of insight into really why we don't operate optimally in our decision-making, especially around energy. So anchoring, a builder's or architect's last project may anchor the next project in terms of the amount of innovation they're willing to invest in, because of course it's risky going with a new technology, so we're sort of anchored to the status quo. The endowment, and then we confirm our choices by looking at examples that use the same level of innovation, saying, yeah, we did the right thing. So, and then we use the endowment effect, the framing effect, and loss aversion all work similarly in that we tend to value potential losses 2, 3, and more times greater than potential gains. So, you know, talking about you have the potential to save this much energy won't be nearly as effective, knowing those cognitive biases as, do you know you're wasting this amount? And hyperbolic discounting, that refers to we have extremely high discount rates in the near term, like the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks, months. We just want it now, and it really operates very strongly in the real near term. And so that really is quite a bias against any kind of reasonable payback, you know, for an efficiency investment. And then, as Susan has said, we are strongly motivated by social mores. We compare ourselves to social groups in the workplace and also our friends and family, and we are really stuck in the status quo. We tend not to change unless the status quo position becomes really untenable. And all of these biases work against energy efficiency improvements. And then the list goes on, and I'm not even showing you some of the memory cognitive biases, which we all know about. So that's what we're doing. We're applying psychosocial insights into human behavior as they relate to energy-related decision-making in controlled experiments, preferably with control groups and treatment groups with random assignment. And we're also providing independent evaluations of the results. So I need to prove to our deployment programs at NYSERDA, but also all clean energy programs in New York State, that incorporating these cognitive biases can really help us make our programs more effective, because even though, of course, I'm sure marketers are using them all, we don't know about those results. That's for private benefit. We want to apply the same cognitive biases to programs that actually bring broad social benefits for environmental savings, but also benefit the individual in a cost payback. So any clean energy program in New York State is eligible to participate at the city level, community level, neighborhood level, state level. And so we started the program with a competitive solicitation to obtain the services of a behavioral technical consultant. And we had 10 proposals, and we selected Action Research, which is a full-service, community-based social marketing company based in California. Jennifer Tabanico is the president of Action Research, and so she's managing the behavioral services. And they leverage the academic community So they're taking these insights that have been proven in lab situations in academia and are buried in academic journals and applying them to real-world problems involving social and environmental issues. And the stable of scientific advisors that we have through our contract with Action Research include the following academics. They all teach in social psychology, but they're also conducting applied research. And as I said, they're using the community-based social marketing approach. It has that approach, if you're not familiar with it, it really has its roots in social science. It's research-driven. It focuses on a specific targeted behavior, and it uses kind of a lens that optimizes those three variables in order, they take some time, doing foundational research, some surveys if necessary, to find out what those behaviors are that would give us, the biggest bang. Like what is the targeted behavior that has the largest energy savings impact potential, but then also is that behavior, does it have a likelihood of success? Like you're not going to get people in the Northeast in the middle of the winter turn the shower off after shampooing their hair because it's just too cold, right? So that has an, you consider that, the likelihood of success, but also what is the market penetration of that behavior already? And we've had a few little setbacks because our clients thought that behavior wasn't being practiced already, but in fact it was. The control group was saving more than the treatment group. So the community-based marketing approach, it really goes before knowledge and awareness building, and it really focuses on specific behaviors, and then it uses the behavioral interventions to remove the barriers and emphasize the benefits of participating in that desired behavior. So this is the process. The behavior tools that it uses include, the social norms, the commitments, the pledges, the friendly competitions, providing feedback, making energy a tangible thing instead of invisible, and also incentives. We don't have funding, though, to provide incentives. So all of our interventions have been really low cost or no cost. The way it works is, my program, and I manage Action Research's contract, we provide the behavior technical consulting services to the clean energy program. So those services are free to your program. But then you would be responsible for implementing the behavioral approach that was designed by Action Research. And it's a collaborative process. We do it through a series of conference calls. And so, you're part of the design process. And then also your responsibility would be provide us the data. We provide you the vehicle to collect the data, but we need the data to evaluate it. And then the evaluation are done by Action Research, but also they're validated by a third-party evaluator. And it's just kind of a trick of fate that our technical behavioral consultant's name is Action Research, and our evaluation expert is Research into Action. So we have 7 pilots. 5 of them are complete. The ones in purple are completed. And then the ongoing ones are the 2 in the bottom I guess that's green. I don't have time to talk about them all today, but I'll talk about 3 of them. And I'll be glad to answer questions later. So the PSI Van Pull Program, that was the first referral that we had, and it came actually through the R&D transportation program at NYSERDA. So one of my friends at work, he had this project that he'd funded through a solicitation to introduce the PSI Van Pull Program that is very successful on the West Coast. You might know of it. It's where they lease vans to workers, and workers pull together and reduce vehicle miles, but they also save money. Typically, though, for it to be cost-effective for a participant, you want to have a 30-mile round, I think it's one-way commute, actually. So, but it was having trouble in the Capital District. After 2 years, they had only been able to fill 2 vans, and they had 20 vans as part of the project, and the vans even came with state and federal subsidies. So Joe said, maybe you can help us. And so we looked at their advertising materials that were developed for California. You see the palm trees, and they were, at that point in time, they were just about to use the last of their marketing dollars for some radio spot ads to raise awareness. And Action Research, with their background, they said, wait a minute, don't do that. It probably will not be effective. They used this, the research in peripheral versus central route decision making. It's the same as System 1, System 2 in Kahneman's book. The first is intuitive, and the second is a very deliberative, academic, or analytical, rather, decision. And a radio spot ad is not going to influence a central root decision. It requires, reading materials, preferably, and thinking about it, talking about it with your family if you're going to participate in a Van Pull program. So instead, they advised VPSI to go back to and update their advertising materials. Because we did have 2 vans on the street in the Capital District region is Albany. That's where my office is based. So they said, use pictures of actual van poolers in the Capital District region in your outreach material, both in your printed material and also your website. And then include testimonials from the van poolers in the Capital District region. See, that's the typical office worker, a government worker in Albany, saying, in the video clip, YouTube video clip, saying, I thought it was going to be really difficult to join a van pool, but, and my friend did, and I tried it, and actually it's been really fun. There's social benefits. So that helps people overcome the barrier of trying something new, which does require changes in their life to participate in a van pool. So they were using the power of social norms. And then also, they recommended go through the large employers of the Capital District region to use them to reach out to their employers, because that's, of course, the first place that van pooling would probably be adopted, because you have large groups of people going to the same place to work. Well, they tried that, but I don't know if there's something different about New York, because the HR directors in California welcomed that opportunity to share the information with their staff, but they couldn't get in the front door in Albany. The HR directors did not even want to talk to them. They couldn't get a meeting. And so we decided we would fund Action Research to do a phone survey we identified who the major employers were in the Capital District. They talked to the HR directors or other people in those large employing organizations that would be in charge of providing that kind of information to the staff. And they found out, well, they just felt it was going to be too much of a hard sell to talk to VPSI directly, and they didn't want to be responsible for advertising a program that they didn't know anything about. So Action Research provided them with information about VPSI. They got more comfortable with what the program was, and Action Research, with their skills, they were able to get their foot in the door, it's a marketing term, and get a small concession from the employers to receive an email from VPSI with a PDF about the program, and then just to give it as a FYI to their staff. So it was amazing. Just maybe 6 months after VPSI followed Action Research's recommendations, the vans just started filling up. I mean, it was amazing, and they just sort of told us matter-of-factly at one of our progress meetings. We couldn't believe it. And that was probably about 8-9 months ago that we did this, and today they have 18 of the 20 vans filled. It was really great. That was the first project we did, so we were like, yay, but the only problem is we didn't have a control group. So you won't see this, in any academic journal, but we're still excited about it. Okay, the second one I'm going to talk about is the Ithaca College Computer Lab study. And I met the sustainability director at a conference, and that's how that referral came. So they really are kind of catch as catch can still. It's word of mouth. And we had a few conversations on the phone, and she was new in her position at Ithaca College. It's a small private arts liberal college in the Finger Lakes region of New York State, and she really couldn't get staff there interested in doing things. So that's why she came to us. She was interested in doing a pilot. Okay, so we thought, after a few conversations, we targeted in on getting students to turn off the computers in the public computer laboratories might be a good behavior to target. So the theoretical framework used for this behavioral intervention was the descriptive and injunctive norms. For those of you that aren't familiar, these are terms maybe that Bob Cialdini developed. Descriptive norm is like if you're driving on the highway and the speed limit is 65 miles an hour. How fast are most people going? 72, right? That's the descriptive norm. But the injunctive norm for that is 65. That's the law, it's socially sanctioned, but everybody goes 72 because they know we can get away with it. So in this case, we wanted to develop a descriptive norm where the computers were off when they weren't being used, and the injunctive norm, we needed to maybe put some signage up to say, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to turn them off. So while the IRB approvals were going through the process at Ithaca College, the scientific advisor to the project, Renee Bader, teaches social psychology at State University of New York, Plattsburgh. She tried out a couple of conditions using her students, and we randomly assigned 4 different treatment conditions to the computer labs at SUNY Plattsburgh. The first condition, the computers off and sign posted, that would be combining the descriptive and injunctive norm. And the sign was a little business card sign, a business card sized sign posted at the lower left-hand corner of the monitor saying, Plattsburgh green machine, please turn off the computer and monitor before you leave. So that people knew this is what they were supposed to do. And then every 2 hours when the lab monitors changed, they were instructed to turn off the machines that had been left on, so that that was the descriptive norm. When a computer wasn't being used, it was shut down. And then the second condition was the descriptive norm only without the injunctive, so just the computers were shut off every 2 hours. And then the third condition was the computers were on with only the injunctive sign posted. So, and then the fourth condition was what the condition that was prevalent was, sort of our base case. What they did was they would just, at Ithaca College, they would just turn the computers on at the beginning of the day and leave them on until the end of the hours for the lab. So, as you might guess, if you're a social psychologist, the condition where you combine the descriptive norm and the injunctive norm was by far the most effective. 48% of the students turned the computers off after using them. And this data was collected by students of Renee's who would go around and just take notes inobtrusively, pretending to be, part of the lab monitor staff. So knowing that, when we got the IRB approvals at Ithaca College, we just implemented the most effective condition, which was with the sign posted now. It was an Ithaca green machine. And with the lab monitors turning off the computers that weren't in use every 2 hours. And it was 10 times as effective as their base case. So we felt that that was a pretty successful project. And you need, the client referral has to be really cooperative. And Ithaca College and Plattsburgh were great at following the conditions and providing the data that we needed. And so in terms of savings, we just calculated these actually. For the computer labs alone that we worked in at Ithaca College, and I think there were 6 of them, we estimate that if those conditions are maintained over a year, Ithaca College could save $3,000. But if they implemented that campus-wide, so at all of the computer labs and all the classrooms that had computers, they could save up to $21,000 a year, which is a significant amount of money for Ithaca College. But then, if you had a client like NYU that was going to implement it, university campus-wide, they could save, more than $1 million. So, and that's just a pretty simple, no-cost action. So then the third pilot that is, we just started up, but we're really excited about it, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about it. It's working with neighborhood groups, really, or small groups of residents. And it came through the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board. They'd received funding from EPA to reduce CO2 in Central New York. 30% was their goal. And they are also an implementation contractor for NYSERDA's program, the Energy Smart Communities program. And so part of their their other job is to promote residents in Central New York to sign up for home energy audits or home energy assessments. And because Central New York is very community-based, and Syracuse in particular has really strong, cohesive neighborhoods. Action Research thought that this energy team concept would be a good approach. You know, you're probably all familiar with David Gershon's eco-team approach, and this is similar to some degree, but it's different in that it only is focusing on 5 different sort of actions, or 5 different groups of actions, rather than 100 things you can do to reduce your carbon footprint. And this program is only focused on electric energy use. And so we recommended that the planning board develop a website to advertise the program and to get local excitement about joining, because what they did was they used their own social networks, their colleagues at work, to advertise the program and get volunteers from the community that would agree to be these energy challenge team leaders, or to be group facilitators. And the plan was that the groups would not be larger than 8 households. 5 to 8 people is optimal for small group decision making, and that they would meet every 2 weeks over a 7-week period and work through a really simple, easy to follow 5-lesson curriculum that Action Research developed with my help, especially at the lighting part, since that's my area. And the first wave started in March, and it includes 5 teams. And then the next wave is going to start next month, actually. So, as I said, Action Research developed these workbook materials, and it's really a comprehensive approach. We're providing all the materials and, in fact, scripts for the leaders, the facilitators, to use. And the curriculum is developed in a 3-ring binder with, with charts and graphs and things for the people actually to fill out themselves, to give them a sense of what the energy is that they're using in their house. And the first, for example, the first lesson is get to know your meter. Find your electric meter and learn how to read it, and then keep track of it. So you're making the energy use tangible. The second was to do a lighting inventory with the goal to change out 10 incandescent light bulbs in your house. And then again, a graph or a matrix was provided giving them, graphics of the light bulbs and how much energy those light bulbs use. And then if they were to replace them with a CFL or an LED, how much energy could they save? I should have included copies of that, but we'll have this handbook available on the website, actually, at NYSERDA, and also through Action Research. And then we also built in the research materials to provide feedback. So at the end of each of those meetings that are occurring now every 2 weeks, the facilitator collects information from the participants. So we're getting kind of a process evaluation along the way so that we can sort of tweak it before we make this information public. And it also includes a utility waiver for the participants to fill out that provides our program with 18 months of utility data prior to participation in this 7-week program, and 18 months of utility data post. And we're also going to have an extensive exit survey, but try not to influence participants in the program too much, and that's why we're making an exit survey instead of an entrance survey. So future pilots are being added right now in central New York. The planning board is adding the town of DeWitt and Madison County. But we still have questions. Is the model scalable, and is it only going to work in a really close-knit, cohesive community like Syracuse? And then can we rely on social diffusion? Because the goal for it to be self-sustaining, of course, is for participants in those groups to then be inspired to become a team leader themselves, and then, in growing from there. But if it is successful, we really need to give credit to the Central New York Planning and Development Board, because the 2 individuals behind this program there are incredibly enthusiastic. And there's just a lot of energy that they're putting into their website development. They're constantly updating it and sending emails to their friends and to the participants. Also, I should say Action Research has made 2 trips out to New York to train the facilitators prior to them convening their groups. So Action Research is available, you know, for training. It depends on the type of referral that we're getting. But most of the work is being done virtually through phone calls. So in the future, since we have had some measure of success, I've been able to convince NYSERDA that we need to continue the program and grow it. And now I'll have a $1.2 million budget to go out with the next RFP, which I hope to have on the street, you know, later this summer. And we want to continue to be able to offer the technical behavioral services, because we like that model, and like just to have like a slush fund to use for the referrals that come in, you know, as a result of this conference, for example. But you know, because you know, it takes a long time to get good projects that way, because we've gone through maybe 25 referrals before we have 5 good hits. It just works out that way. You know, and it's a consensus decision for some groups not to participate in our program. It just doesn't make sense for them. So now the next time we're going to ask for full-blown proposals from potential projects, so that those proposals would come with a behavioral expert, you know, as part of the proposal. The behavioral intervention or treatment may not be fully formed. You may include some like foundational market research, like we do, to determine, okay, what is the best approach. But you know, you would have a goal in mind. You would have a program that you want to increase the efficacy of, or even just a new program out of the box. But you'd also have to build in a control group and a treatment group. And you'd have to have the ability to implement the treatment and then to provide data back to us for evaluation. So we would provide, you know, some funding, especially funding for your technical expertise and program planning and even evaluation. But then, you know, in-kind services would come from the client for implementation. And also maybe if you're going to include incentives, that sort of stuff would have to be funded by the proposer. And we would really like to do projects in the hospitality sector, the commercial sector, and training building managers. That's a great opportunity. And then also in the residential sector. We've done a lot of projects with universities, actually. It seems like, you know, they're innovative by nature, I think, university setting. So for example, with the hospitality sector, they're already doing messaging, but it's all environmental messaging. It's not social norm messaging. And we know from research that Bob Cialdini and Wes Schultz and Noah Goldstein did in hotels to vary the message to include a social norm message, like people who stay at our hotel, you know, they're concerned about the environment and they recycle their towels, and that is much more effective than the environmental message. But that really hasn't made it out of the academic journals, because there is no hotel that we know of, and I've tried to talk to the hotels in New York City. I want to work with a Westin hotel because they have a heavenly shower. They have two settings on their showers, like 10 showers or 1 shower. I know, but I want to influence it. So that's a really good opportunity if somebody has an in with a hospitality sector, because also, you know, you could change the AC and heating settings when you leave the room, and there's a lot of stuff. You can make it visible with a door hanger on the outside, or invisible. You could tie it with a reward. And then feedback, since the technology is so quickly evolving, there's bound to be some really great opportunities. So instead of reading data like that means nothing to anybody except the building manager, maybe translating it into a graphics package, or, you know, making it somewhat of a game. I don't know, you know, the sky's the limit really what you could do. And in terms of a building manager's program, I just think of the building managers as kind of the lone wolves, you know, who have, you know, huge responsibility to optimize the use of a building. Maybe they would probably most certainly benefit from training, just so that they have the you know, the technological expertise that's required for optimal operation in a building, but also perhaps develop a social network site so that these lone building operators can know what's being done in other buildings, and so that their norm then can be excellence rather than the status quo. So that's it. Thank you.